creative behaviour, creative practice. The thoughts are just rampaging out of both staff and children.
Because we've come up with the concept, we have to stand by it and we have to be passionate about it.
Give them a learning log question and 2 weeks later you'd come back with an absolutely fantastic 3D model of the Taj Mahal from a child that you wouldn't expect it.
How do I make my learning active rather than passive? How do I make it practical? How do I have a real context?
To know that you go into school every day and you're teaching about something that interests you, it makes you have a fire to teach.
It's amazing to see children who are as young as 5 and 6 creating PowerPoint presentations.
Being given the freedom to be able to pass the ownership of learning onto the children.
You come in with an energy, not thinking, oh, I've got to teach this, I've got to teach that. And the children feed off your energies.
We like to talk, we like to be in control, we like to be organised. We feel much more comfortable when we're doing the talking and the children are doing the listening. But what we have to do is probably reverse that trend. You know, we've got to stop being creatures of habit.
We questioned whether we were actually providing enough opportunities to really challenge, particularly the more able, or give the less able different ways in which to respond, rather than always perhaps asking them to write.
The whole school has an overwhelming commitment to creativity. A lot of time is put aside to prepare for creativity. The school's very aware that it doesn't just happen organically, it very much needs to be planned for and prepared for by the staff.
We've taken on board something called Lesson Study, which at the moment is running in tier groups, giving staff an opportunity to work together to plan a lesson. One teacher will deliver that lesson and the other teachers have focused children.
The head and the deputy said, if you've got an idea, go with it. If you've got an interest, introduce it to the children, and if they think, wow, we're interested, then see where it goes, as long as we meet the objectives.
It's actually the pedagogy, it's the mindset, it's the philosophy that you've got.
Now I'll open up my classroom and say, this is our learning challenge, you respond how you would like to, and if they've perhaps done some like lifting up flaps or sliders and things in their logs at home, then they will apply that within the lesson, and then the person sat next to them will say, oh, what are you doing there? Can you show me how? And it passes around the classroom.
I think they can tell if you're interested and if you want to be there and if you've got a passion.
Teachers are informing other teachers about things they might not have noticed. When you're engrossed in teaching a lesson and you've got focused tasks to deliver and you've got certain things to assess, you don't always notice what could be really obvious to an outsider.
You know, I've been teaching for nearly 20 years. What I actually have to do is think, how do I teach differently? How do I make my learning active rather than passive? How do I make it practical? How do I have a real context? And I also have to stop talking and start listening a lot more.
Are we meeting every child's needs? How can we improve the planning? And when we are planning, think about varying children's needs in the lesson.
We look at how we can work as part of a team to really get the best out of everybody's expertise in order to help our children to learn.
A learning log is basically a type of homework that we do at Bramhope. We've done it for 2 years now, and we provide the children with a learning challenge which is set out as a question, and then they're able to respond to it in any way they wish.
We proofread their questions. If we feel that they are appropriate to the task and to the topic, they're then given 2 weeks to complete their learning log and do it in a manner that suits them and suits their learning style.
We keep control over it so that we don't allow the children to choose to respond with an artistic element every time, because obviously we want to raise standards in writing as well, but as long as there's a balance there.
We've looked at problems with the children. We try and make sure it's in a real context. There's no purpose of, you know, having something from a textbook necessarily. It's what is real to those children and what's real to them now. You know, so what are the questions that they want to know the answers to? And I think what we have to do is we have to support them in that way.
They are much more creative in the way that they approach the asking of questions and the answering of questions. They have a much greater ability to research a question from the beginning, you know, find the answers themselves.
I've learned from one of the children as well who does breadcrumbing when he plans his work. So he literally does a little trail. So it's a word, line, word, line, word, line. Sam, can you explain to me what that's about? Well, it's about this, 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 this and this, and it's because of this, this, this and this, and it just works for him. So now when I'm planning my work, I've picked up how he does it.
So we've had a very big shift from all becoming teachers and all becoming learners in school, you know, rather than a system of the teacher just shoveling the information into the child.
For me, I found it to be more a case of self-esteem and confidence, that the children who don't normally get noticed or recognised, all of a sudden they have their work shown and their shoulders go up, they're 3 feet taller, and it then gives them a fresh attitude to their work, and they tend to then improve the quality of their work because they've had some kind of recognition already.
Having an ownership on their own learning makes them more enthusiastic and wanting to learn, that willingness to learn, so it certainly comes out, and then their creativity comes out.
Sometimes they've been bursting with ideas. You know, they've, particularly because of the approach that we've had of going to locations and speaking to people, that they've had this sort of, you know, they've found this exclusive information that they're just desperate to share with everybody else.
And they really do come alive when they actually see how maths can link to topic work. It's one of the most important subjects, I think, to engage the children with. There are a lot of children that turn off from maths, particularly as they get higher up the school and go into high school. And if we can really draw on those links with the real world, it's fantastic. It's great for maths.
We consult about what they want to learn in a particular topic or theme that we're exploring. We consult with children about what they already know, because actually there's no point teaching children things that they already know. So we start from where the children are, most definitely.
We can see effects already now. So for example, the Year 3 class, they've just finished a 4-month project with Creative Partnerships. And this is a class, mixed ability, a high number of EL pupils. But within that class, and after 4 months of having children being immersed in a particular project which is focused on problem solving, divergent thinking and cooperative learning, we've already seen accelerated rates of progress, particularly in reading and writing.
Working with creative agents is a wonderful opportunity for our children, because you learn from the expertise of others, and what we need to make sure now is that expertise is used throughout the school, not just for children but for staff actually, to see how we can continue to develop, not just in terms of PHS TV, which was the CAPE project, but in any project or focus suite that we do.
We've used the creative partners twice now for 2 staff inset training sessions, because we felt it was very important that the staff had an idea of how the children may feel when faced with this very different way of learning.
Children have been far more collaborative in their approach since taking part in Primrose Hill TV, because children have worked together to form either an interview team or to form a filming team. And actually we chose children for those particular teams who would benefit greatly from being able to work alongside other children and professionals.
For the children involved, huge impact, I would say, primarily in their ICT skills, developing their knowledge of cameras, how to use them, their confidence at using a wide range of equipment, editing, all of that sort of thing, but also, crucially, social development, interacting with one another, negotiating plans, taking turns, interviewing techniques as well. Our children were very good at asking questions and coming up with questions.
Well, we've got a long-term relationship with the Leeds cycle team that work with us on an annual basis, at least 2 or 3 times a year, and culminates in the Leeds City Cycle event for Year 6 children. And that's been a long-term partnership that we've developed over time.
Steve from Interplay has led the team, but all of his team have been really well embraced by the children here. There's a buzz whenever they're in school, and they just want the children to succeed. They're not afraid of giving them expensive kit to play around with. We've since bought some more cameras, and if you don't let children do, then how do you know what they can achieve? And that's their ethos at Interplay.
The thoughts are just rampaging out of both staff and children, and you know, in a way that we didn't think would be possible, because with having over 70% of our children having English as an additional language, that was a big difficulty for us here, for them to find a way of expressing themselves.
It has a whole school implication, I think, that even though we worked with a group of 12 children, it's been shared with the whole school, and it's been an opportunity to think about how we can use film throughout school. So in terms of impact and wanting to ask the senior management team for future funding, if we can say that this is having an improvement on standards across the school, then surely we will secure funding for further projects.